Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to Week in Nintendo. Every Saturday I like to go back through the past week's biggest headlines so you can get all caught up on all things Nintendo. If you're new here and you like these weekly news rundowns, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on everything happening with the channel. With all that out of the way, let's go through this week's Nintendo news. Monday, rumors started circulating about new Switch hardware expected to begin production as soon as Q4 2020 and launching in Q1 of 2021. Taipei-based outlet The Economic Daily News claimed to have sources of those familiar with Nintendo's manufacturing process, saying that this new Switch model will have better communications and interactions and a new display quality. Of course, we're dealing with some rough translations here, but it sounds like rather than a true successor to the Switch, this will be something closer to the long-rumored Switch Pro, an incremental upgrade to the original Switch. Bloomberg followed up with their own article, adding a few more details to the supposed specifications of the new model, mentioning more processing power, 4K visuals, as well as a potential collection of new software to take advantage of the higher specs, even hinting that the Switch's spotty release schedule this year could be due to saving some of the titles to coincide with the new model's launch. Now, I know Switch Pro rumors have been circulating forever, but Nintendo is no stranger to console refreshes, especially with their handhelds. And with March 2021 marking the Switch's 4th birthday, I think the timing for a new Nintendo Switch XL, or whatever it ends up being called, makes perfect sense. This would be a way to remain at least somewhat competitive with Microsoft and Sony's next-gen systems, hopefully allowing for some lower-res ports of next-gen third-party titles to run on Nintendo's handheld. I only hope that Nintendo takes an approach somewhat similar to the PS4 Pro, a console that can run certain games better, but not something like the new Nintendo 3DS that instead only made certain games playable, like Fire Emblem Heroes, which wouldn't even run on the base hardware. We'll have to wait and see what comes of all this, but I'd say it's fairly likely we'll see a hardware refresh from Nintendo early next year. Let me know down below what you'd like to see in a Switch Pro upgrade. Tuesday, we learned that the Sega Ages project, which brought over some exceptional re-releases of Sega classics to the Switch, was coming to an end. Sega's Yosuke Akinari stated that this doesn't mean the end of releases for past Sega titles, with the team already working on their next project, with hopes of bringing more past titles over to the Switch. Whether or not M2 will be involved with these projects remains to be seen, so this just kind of seems like the end of the Sega Ages branding without much explanation why. There are still plenty of titles Sega could bring over to the Switch, but at least from the outside, it seems like they've just kind of arbitrarily ended the project. Wednesday morning, we got a surprise Nintendo Direct mini partner showcase showing off a little over 10 minutes of titles coming to the Switch from Nintendo's publishing and development partners. There had been rumors circulating about the possibility of a general Nintendo Direct coming this week, supposedly on Friday, but this surprise drop killed that hype immediately. Sure, that's not Nintendo's fault as they weren't the ones setting those expectations, but judging by the like to dislike ratio on the video, this was not the presentation fans were looking for. I'm sorry, but these Nintendo Direct mini partner showcases have so far been incredibly underwhelming presentations. At least during the last one, we got an update on Shin Megami Tensei 5, and even the last Indie World showcase was far more compelling than this one. Other than Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 and maybe the Taiko no Tetsujin RPG game, there wasn't anything at all here that really caught my attention. And with how poorly these partner showcases have been received, I have to wonder if the direct format is the best way to showcase these lower tier titles. Of course, everything's been thrown off by 2020, but it seems like Nintendo is really only doing directs for indies and partner showcases and just announcing their first party titles on Twitter. It's a bit of a strange approach that I don't quite understand, but I'd imagine it's because they simply don't have enough first party content to fill a direct this year. And with us almost already in September, it looks like the rumored 3D Mario Remasters collection might end up being the big holiday title this year. I'll leave a link to the showcase down below if you haven't seen it yet. I'm not even going to go over what was shown here because it was just so anticlimactic and bad. If there was something here that really got you excited, I'm happy for you, but for me, this was a miss. Wednesday, we also had the surprise release of The Last Campfire on Switch, a melancholy puzzle adventure game from Hello Games that we first saw unveiled during March's Indie World Showcase. Why this was shadow dropped and not included in the most recent Indie World Showcase is strange to me, but at least it looks to be a quality offering from the developers of No Man's Sky. The Last Campfire is available now from the Nintendo Switch eShop for $14.99. Thursday, we had the Switch release of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered, the refresh of the 2004 co-op GameCube title that is now also available on PS4 and mobile. Without a ton of announced Switch titles on the horizon, I think it places a little more pressure on these few releases, and this one seems to be pretty disappointing. IGN reviewed the game with a 3, citing outdated game design, the lack of local co-op, and incredibly long load times. So unfortunately, it sounds like fans of the game might be better off pulling out their GameCube instead of picking up the remaster. Friday, we learned that Ys 9 Monstrum Nox would be coming to the Switch in the summer of 2021. The game will hit the PS4 this February, which feels a whole lot closer, so the wait here is going to be a little excruciating for Switch owners. While I'm very happy to see Ys 9 coming to the Switch, as it wasn't a for sure thing up until recently, I can't see this game topping Ys 8 for me. The vibrant island setting made for a beautiful backdrop for combat and exploration, and a lot of the footage from Ys 9 features some pretty drab environments. There seems to be a ton of gray stone and dark skies, which definitely makes for a different overall feel from the last game, but as long as the combat and music are anywhere near Ys 8, I'm all in on this one. And that does it for this week's Nintendo news, but before we go, it's time for 20 years ago today, where we take a look back at what was happening with Nintendo 20 years ago this week. And this week, we're taking a quick look at the third installment in Acclaim's football sim series on the Nintendo 64, NFL Quarterback Club 2000. With a much worse reception compared to the 2 previous entries, Quarterback Club 2000 failed to move the series forward with its lackluster feature set and poor performance. GameSpot scored the game with a mediocre 5.9 and said, "In the end, if you're a Nintendo 64 owner looking for the best football game on the system, Quarterback Club 2000 isn't it. With its inconsistent frame rate, you really won't be able to appreciate how good the players look or any of the game's motion captured animations. What's worse is the game's choppy frame rate takes away from the gameplay, since sometimes you won't really be able to tell what's happening. People who want to play a good football game on a console system shouldn't have to tweak settings and optimize the game. It should be the best it can be right out of the box." I've been a fan of the Quarterback Club series for quite some time now, but this year, Madden 2000 for the Nintendo 64 is simply a better game. So there you go, not the best week in video games either for the year 2000 or 2020, but there's always next week. And if you stuck around through all that and like what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing. And until next week, have a great weekend, play some video games, and I'll see you next time.